Meredith Gorman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
UFC 308 Topuria versus Holloway back in Abu Dhabi. Really excited for this fight and the co-main as well. Overall, the card is very deep, especially in the main card. So I'm looking forward to this fight as much as any fight this year. I'll be breaking down the main card like usual, guys, providing free picks, leans, price talk, fades, and more. Systemsportscapping.com or link.me/systemcapping for client opportunities, resume, records, client comments, and more. 28 and 10 pay-per-view run is on the line, full year 2024 for pay-per-view cards. Average line plus money, guys. Important note there. Back to 70% on our 2-fight parlays due to hitting one last week with Charles Johnson and the over in rounds of Font and Phillips fight. We also on the over 2.5 rounds in the main event. Great value there. Books made an error there. Plus 120. Hernandez and Pereira over 2.5 rounds. Now, I expected probably Hernandez to win the fight. I did lean his way. And the way he wins fight is to drown you, to wear you out, right? So if he was going to win that fight, he was going to go over the 2.5 rounds. I stayed away from a side on the fight, but I did expect that to go fairly deep. And it did, 5th round. Glad I stayed away from fight goes to decision. Didn't get greedy. Saw that plus money on over 2.5 rounds. And it was an easy bet for me there. Another profitable event for clients. Best time to get on board now, guys. We're busy with the, obviously, UFC, NFL. Nice 14-3 NFL run. Right now we're rolling in the NFL. We got, obviously, PGA, DP World Tour, UFC, of course, NHL at low volume, NBA at low volume as well. Like this video if you're watching on YouTube. Much appreciated if you're watching on YouTube. Listeners, which I have a lot more in the Spotify and Apple world these days. Shout out to you. Please rate 5-star and share with friends. Let's get right into this card, guys. We're not going to delay it any further. Have to do the, housekeeping before, like always, provide you guys with some updates. Be transparent and, recap of the previous card. Let's get right into this main event. Topuria, minus 260. Up to 300 on some books. Opened up around 225. Shop around. Books vary. I always stress it. Every video. Have multiple sports books. Have money in multiple accounts. Numbers vary a ton, especially in the UFC. So yeah, we're going with the generic line here, minus 260. Holloway plus 200. Like I mentioned, Topuria is getting money because this opened up at 225. I mentioned you can see some books out there, minus 300. So if you do like Topuria, shop around for sure. Shop around. I do get it. I do get the money coming in on Topuria. Now, when it starts getting up, plus 200 and higher on Holloway, I get why some people are going to want to take a shot there, right? These are two guys that I historically hate to bet against and always bet with. So it is going to be a difficult handicap for me from a side standpoint, but we'll talk about it. 15-0 Topuria, running through the UFC, right? And looking unbeatable in my eyes, right? He's not struggling in these wins. There's no, maybe earlier in the career, obviously he had that Jaw Herbert knockdown, but he ended up knocking him out. He did have a couple struggles at times, I guess you could say. But are they really struggles? I would say no. I would just say, it's a fight and things could happen. But you can really see him being a lot more confident in there, using all his tools to his advantage. And this is going to be his toughest test yet in my eyes. right? It's going to be his best resume win. Now, obviously, we can argue Volk, right, and how he did it. So let's see how he does it against Holloway, I guess. I'm just saying from a name standpoint, a legend standpoint, I put Holloway over Volk. We could argue that, but either way, the Volk win last time out was very impressive, right? He did it in impressive fashion, knockout, right? We know what Volk did to Max too, right? So we know all the battles and Volk passed. So either way, this is going to be one of his best, if not his best, resume opponent. And if he gets a win, I believe it is right up there. Topuria, he's just so well-rounded. This is what I love about him, right? So well-rounded. Plus, he hits like a truck, right? I love his confidence in there. Tons of swag. You need that in the fight game. You need that to be a champion. Right? I do give Max some stat advantages here, some skill advantages, though, in this fight. Obviously, you have to give him the resume advantage, the big fight advantage, right? If you look at a stat standpoint, though, I give him volume, right? He does win in the volume category. He's averaging over 7 significant strikes per minute, and this is over a bunch of fights, right? This is not short term. Like Topuria, you can say is more somewhat short term, right, in the UFC compared to Holloway, right? So averaging that much, we know Holloway's a volume puncher, not a knockout artist, right? He will beat you with volume and his durability, and I would also have to give Holloway the durability advantage over Topuria, right? We just seen it more, right? We don't really know, I guess, how good Topuria's durability is because we really haven't seen him get beat up or clipped much. We did see the one time he dropped, he got right back up. So we don't really know, right, the durability from Topuria. We know he can go 5 rounds. He did slow down in that 5th round. Keep in mind, what was it, against Emmett, if I recall? Yeah, so let's see if this fight does go further than expected or further in the 4th, 5th round. It probably would be advantage Holloway. So those are a few things here, right? Topuria, I'm going to give him the power. I'm going to give him the grappling and wrestling as well. Will it get down there, right? We know Holloway's takedown defense is very good. So not too sure if Topuria will have a lot of success if he decides to go there, right? I think he can stand and strike with Holloway, right? Topuria's a very good boxer too, but we know how good Max is as well, right? So it's just a very interesting fight, right? There's not too many fights this year that I'm more excited to watch, guys, right? From a handicapping side standpoint, I'm not going to say it's the easiest fight to handicap. When you're looking at the prices, right? The prices almost buy you out on Topuria. And it is difficult to call an outcome here. Very difficult to call an outcome. I'm an outcome guy. I like to bet outcomes. But here it's difficult, right? Is Topuria going to be the first guy to ever finish Holloway? That's what you're banking on. We know how durable he is, right? Or you want to play the decision here. Max just takes the punishment. Maybe it's a close fight. Maybe Topuria steals it due to maybe landing the bigger shots in the fight, maybe getting a few takedowns, maybe some control grappling, and he wins that way. Very possible as well. So an outcome is tough for me. Very tough for me. It's funny. You always see like, oh, Max is old. He's been. It's funny. He's old. He's been in there. He's taken a lot of punishment. Yeah, he's taken a lot of punishment. Remember how early he got into the UFC. He's not old. He's 32, guys. Right? He's 32 years old. Right? So I'll always keep... You could say that's his prime, right? He's 32. Even though he started really young, right? Most people that are watching UFC probably... He's been there the whole time. It seems like, right? For a lot of you guys that are listening to this podcast. So I'm not writing off... Max at this price. It's very intriguing. It's making me double think about it. But when I go back to it, look at Topuria's run, look at his confidence, look at his overall skill set, I would have to lean with Topuria here on the side, right? It could be a 2-fight parlay piece for me this week. it's tough for me to get to an outcome here. Very tough. Right, and also there are a couple things with Topuria. Like, this is going to be the biggest fight that I feel like he's obviously the Volk fight. Yes, we know. But I think from a watchable numbers standpoint, this will be Topuria's biggest. So he's going to have the most eyes on him as well. And you know what? I don't think it's going to phase him. I like his confidence too much to think this is going to phase him in this spot. Now, am I excited at this price to back Topuria? No. Definitely not. Definitely not excited to back him at this price against Max Holloway. Any other opponent, maybe. But Holloway, no. I was on Topuria over Volk. Right? Some people had questions about that. That obviously came through. And I said to myself, any fight, in most fights, most situations, I will back Topuria moving forward. This is one of those situations where you're a little more concerned. A little more concerned, right? The way Max wins this fight, I'll give you his path, right? Avoid big shots from Topuria. We've seen him land. We've seen him knock out guys very clean, one being Volk. Right? Stay durable. Be able to handle, the grappling big shots. He's been able to do that his whole career. Will it change now? That's very difficult to predict, guys, right? Keep the fight standing. Very good at keeping a fight standing. 84% takedown defense over all the years. It's very good due to the number of fights that he's been in. And uses volume to win a decision. I have a hard time seeing him finish Topuria. It would have to be a decision win, which is very possible, guys. Very possible. Right? It would have to be due to his volume. He outboxed Topuria, and he had to avoid the takedowns and power from Topuria. It's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask. I just see a little more past the victory for Topuria. That's all. And that's why I would have to go with him to win this fight. And like I said, the confidence is selling me, right? His overall high confidence, it's selling me. So that's the way I would have to look. I'll have to look at the over in the rounds too. It could go over, 2.5 rounds. That could be a look as well if you get that at a good price. Right, if there's a finish, it's Topuria earlier. And we just hasn't seen Max get finished like that. When have we seen that? Right, it's going to be something new if we see it. So I'm willing to look at, the fight. Could go deep, could go to the decision as well. So if you're getting over in rounds, can find some plus money out there or lower price, definitely worth a look this weekend. Chimaev minus 260 versus Whitaker plus 200. Line's about even everywhere. They find some 250s, 275, 280. They're fairly similar compared, unlike the Topuria fight. But, this is another exciting fight. I haven't seen a main event and co-main event this exciting for a while. I'm sure there was, guys. I just can't remember right now at the top of my head. This is exciting, guys. You just can't ask for a much better back-to-back fights. Chimaev, he's been away for a while. He's been away for a while due to illness. I know he has I think there's some visa issues, injuries as well, right? Just been a disappointment in activity. Everyone wants to see him fight, but these illnesses are catching up to him, and how much is it going to factor into fights? I think it gives him problems deeper in the fights. He's not able to go as long because of this. So it is a concern. And guys, this is a 5-round fight, right? We saw the fights last time out. It was over a year ago against Usman. That was his last fight. He struggled later in that fight. Usman almost won the fight on short notice. Very short notice. I can't remember how long it was. I could be wrong. I think it was a week. Usman took it on. Something around that. So Usman also moved up in weight for that. So keep that in mind. Prior wins over Holland, Burns, and Lee, right? So this is going to be his toughest test, yes, in Whitaker, right? Whitaker obviously going to be the big, I wouldn't say the bigger guy, but, Chimaev, we see him at 170. He's going to 185. Whitaker's a true 185er all day, all night, right? So keep that in mind here. to be his toughest test yet for sure. You can say Usman, but like I mentioned, Usman came up in weight and took it on short notice. So this will be a fresh Whittaker. This will be his toughest test yet. And also, Whittaker, I believe, the takedown defense as well, right? Should be a factor in here. Now, I think that's going to be where the battle is, the takedown defense. With Whittaker and Chimaev looking to wrestle. I think Chimaev does get him down at some point, but is he going to be able to hold him down there is the big question. Whittaker is back, right? 4 of his last 5 have been wins. He had the one loss, obviously, to Duplessis, and it was a concerning loss because he got finished. He got finished in that fight. And there are times he's been finished, right? Adesanya finished him as well. So that's very concerning here with Chimaev coming in trying to hit like a truck. There is some concern there. Right? But then he bounced back with wins over Costa and Aleskarov. That was impressive, what he did to him. Resume advantage goes to Whittaker. Striking goes to Whittaker, in my eyes. More cleaner boxing, in my opinion. And 5-round benefits, Robert. So, there are reasons to bet Whittaker here at this price. Definitely reasons. And I mentioned the health concern. How healthy is Chimaev? Now, we could see Chimaev just run through him. It's possible. Come and look as better. He's saying through his interviews he feels as good as ever. Strong as ever. So, hey, this is, again, another tough fight to handicap from a side standpoint. And due to some unknowns with Chimaev, I'm going to be staying away from a side on this fight. But let's look at a few other things before I let you go on this fight. Stats-wise, wrestling goes to Chimaev. However, Whittaker will have the toughest wrestling, right? That 82% takedown defense. Toughest takedown defense that I think Chimaev will face. Usman was up there too, but he wasn't able to just out-wrestle Usman, right, for long periods of that fight. Volume is similar. Slight advantage to Chimaev at over 5. Roberts just under 5. And reach and height's very similar, an inch or 2 here and there. Burns and Usman, right? They proved he's human. Both those guys almost won the fight. It was a close fight on both sides, and how much are these injuries and illnesses going to catch up to him, right? Can Chimaev hold down Whittaker when he gets a fight down to the ground? If he can't, and this fight goes in the 4th, 5th round, advantage Whittaker, right? Whittaker will have to, he's going to have to avoid this early pressure and the early rush from Chimaev. Can he do it? That's a big question, right? Can he do it? We've seen Whittaker chin-checked multiple times early in fights. So you're playing with a little bit of fire here, betting Whittaker, but at the price, I think it's worth a shot, right? The fight probably won't get my client's number from a side standpoint. I would maybe look at the over in rounds here if I were to bet it, but Whittaker at plus 200, plus 220, it's going to be hard to ignore maybe for a smaller unit, and especially for a lot of you that like to bet underdogs. I like him a little more than Holloway, but hey, I believe if you play Holloway and Whittaker, I believe one of them probably will come through. So you're going to profit, right? Which one is difficult to say? That's why I'm going to look more at the over and rounds in this fight. Again, if this finishes early, it's going to be because Chimaev finished Whittaker. There is a chance there. I just don't have it a very high chance. I know Whittaker will expect that. So hopefully he tries to avoid any big shots from him. Ankalaev minus 350 versus Rakic plus 275. Big price here, right? On a fighter I said would have a title shot by now. This was years ago. He's very close, right? Very close. I feel like the UFC is trying to avoid it. They don't like this matchup for Pereira. I think Ankalaev is a nightmare for Pereira if they fight. Obviously, the Ankalaev issue with the UFC. One, that Yan fight, they didn't like how he looked in that fight. I didn't either. It was a draw. Then that no contest with Walker. Then he came back, beat Walker. If he beats Rakic, they're going to have no choice but to fight him against Pereira, right? I don't see it. I'm not even saying that because Rakic is like the next guy up or anything. Racic's coming off back-to-back losses, guys. After that injury, that serious injury Rakic had, I do think he take a step back. I don't think he's a top 5 guy in this division. Very dangerous, though. He's a very dangerous fighter, right? He's a guy that you don't want to take too many shots from, right? Big leg kicks, a lot of power in his hands. So, I believe Ankalaev is a smart fighter, and he'll be able to avoid those, right? And it could be with his wrestling, right? His wrestling should be able to shine in this fight. When you see Rakic, when you look at the stats, 85% takedown defense, but he hasn't really fought a guy that just tried to take him down a bunch. So keep that in mind. Ankalaev will have the grappling advantage here. I would say cleaner boxing as well, but just not the power advantage. That's the only thing I give a Rakic here, is the power advantage. You know me, if a guy just has a power advantage, I'm not looking to bet him just because of that. It's rare that I would. Right? Ankalaev, I believe, is better everywhere except power. So yeah, Ankalaev should win this fight. There's no secret behind that. He's fighting close. He's going to have a lot of fans there as well in Abu Dhabi. I expect him to win this fight and hopefully get a title shot next. I mentioned that years ago that Ankalaev is going to get a title shot and possibly be champion one day. It should happen. It should happen anytime soon. Now, the Pereira fight, obviously Pereira could just knock him out or something. I get that, but I would love to see that fight. Show me the Ankalaev-Pereira fight. I can't wait to see that. Murphy minus 250 versus Dan Ige plus 200. Another favorite here, and a rightful favorite. Just too pricey for me, right? On Lerone Murphy, to be honest. Even though I do like the fighter, right? Murphy comes into this one undefeated, right? He really proved to me last time out versus Barbosa that this is a special fighter, very well-rounded, improving fighter too, right? We already knew he's a very good striker. A lot of people didn't want to strike with him. Most these English fighters are, right? These fighters from UK, great strikers, but struggle in the wrestling department. That was his issue, right? That was his issue. His takedown defense was very bad at 46%. But he's improving it, right? He's been improving it a lot. So that's something that I like to see. He's been improving his wrestling. He can wrestle as well. He can get takedowns. And we know Dan Ige can be taken down. So look for Murphy to maybe use that if he doesn't want to just stand and bang with Ige, even though I do think he's a better striker than Ige. But Ige has that one-shot power, right? He has that one-shot, can I catch you power. But that's the only way I think he wins this fight, is he catches Murphy with a big shot on the feet. So that I have at lower odds. That's why I can look at Murphy on the feet by decision with points, or Murphy, using some takedowns and making an MMA fight to get Ige down. We know Ige can be taken down, right? 59% takedown defense. So that's the only way I can look here. Also, the volume is concerning for Ige at 3.7. When you look at Murphy's over 5 significant strikes per minute. So Murphy should win this fight. I'm not excited or jumping to bet the minus 250. Lean more of a decision here. But I will have action on this fight for clients. Just reviewing a few more things, tape, interviews, etc. But yeah, Murphy should get his hand raised in this fight. Magomedov minus 150 versus Petrosian plus 125. This should be a fun striking battle. Like if you like kickboxing, Muay Thai, this is a good fight to watch, guys. Two high-level strikers with high volume, right? Both over 5.5 significant strikes. Pretty much 0 takedowns, right? Magomedov 0 and Petrosky 0.2. But Petrosian may want to use this in the fight. He may want to try to use a takedown in this fight to surprise him. We have seen him use the takedown before, but mainly he's fighting guys that can strike or try to take him down, right? So that's why you wouldn't use it, right? Don't let this Magomedov name fool you. He doesn't wrestle, guys. He doesn't wrestle at all. Very high-level striking, unorthodox striking, flashy striking. And he uses it with his leg kicks, throws wild strikes. Very entertaining to watch striking. Very entertaining. Petrosian, very similar. Good leg kick game. He can strike. He has some power. Poor takedown defense at 31%, but it won't matter. It won't matter that 31% takedown defense because Magomedov's not taking him down, right? I can tell you that much. This could be a very close decision, guys. Who throws more, who lands the more impactful, flashy shots. to win this fight. Right? You have to think Magomedov's name is bigger. You would have to think he would probably get the call if it's a close fight on the judges' scorecards. He's going to have a lot of fans there. Keep that in mind. Magomedov, he's not a top prospect in his division, guys. His game is very limited. He's a matchup-based guy. And I think this is a good matchup for him to sneak out a decision win. I believe it's a 50-50 fight, though. So 150 on Magomedov. Not terrible, but I think it's a little off. I would have more at minus 120. Due to the fight most likely being close. But I'm going to lean Magomedov here due to the just a situation where he's fighting, his name, right? He's popular over there in Abu Dhabi. Keep in mind, though, he's been doing movies and stuff. He's a perfect bad guy in a movie. So I don't know if that's distracting or not, but that's something to worth mention here. It probably won't get my money. Maybe the over and rounds if you can get a decent price. But yeah, I think the books are expecting this to go to decision as well. That will do it, guys. That will do it. Oh, I'm excited for this card. Expect a fairly decent-sized client card this week. Try to keep this pay-per-view run going for us. So look out for that. And yeah, busy time of the year for myself and System Capping. Hopefully you are enjoying the podcast. Like I always say, guys, bet smart and know your limits. Enjoy this card.